Yes, many thanks for staying with us. It has been a very interesting day down at the coast. Mombasa County Governor Ali Hassan Joho today was barred from attending the presidential function, the official commissioning of the Mtongwe Ferry. So what we are showing you right here are some of the live pictures. Let's just listen in before we start off.
Kama ule huyu wewe nimekupoint hakuna there's nothing you're going to do to me, my friend. Ya nini kunitishatisha mimi? Unanitisha kama nani wewe? Mimi siogopi. Kama ni kuniua mtaniua leo, my friend. Wewe ni mtu mzima, ongea kama mtu mzima bana. Mnanifukuza kama mwizi, nimeibia nani mimi? Si nyinyi hapa mnatisha na mabunduki zenu hizo. Mwanaume amezaliwa siku moja, my friend. Mwanaume amezaliwa siku moja na atakufa siku moja tu. Vitisho sio havifanyi kazi.
That's just how events unfolded in Coast, and that is definitely going to be our top story at this hour. But before we get into it, let's first take a look at the highlights. Governor Joho barred from attending presidential function within his county. Court of Appeal gives parties in the doctors' dispute final chance to reach an agreement. And 2 people killed in West Pokot as trouble continues in the North Rift. Good afternoon. Our sign language interpreter is Meresha Owiti, and I am Akisa Wandera. Let us begin this bulletin from the coast region, where President Uhuru Kenyatta is set to preside over the resumption of services at the Mtongwe Ferry. Services at the ferry were withdrawn in November 2011 after the national government decommissioned 2 old ferries for being unseaworthy. Now, the withdrawal of the vessels at Mtongwe has put pressure on the Likoni Channel, which has been experiencing congestion from time to time. Mtongwe and Likoni residents have also complained of congestion at Likoni, which serves as estimated 300,000 people and 6,000 vehicles daily. In 1994, one of Kenya's worst maritime accidents happened at Mtongwe when more than 270 people were killed after a ferry capsized. All right, Francis Ontomwa is currently on board that ferry, and he will be giving us details of the events later on in the program. But of course, this event is happening at a time when the governor of Mombasa says it is backwardness of the highest order, and it is how the governor termed attempts to bar him from attending a presidential function within his county. He says he wanted to attend the function to represent his people, and the governor, who was speaking from his office in Mombasa, said he had been barred from venturing beyond the office until President Uhuru Kenyatta leaves the venue of the function. This is what he had to say.
We had all good intentions kwenda pale kuwakilisha watu wa Mombasa. I believe a public function for an elected leader doesn't need invitation, because somebody is asking a question whether I have been invited to that function. Remember, I said earlier, if I'm aware of a function that is being presided by the president, I will attend. The only ones that I do not attend is the ones that are Jubilee functions and those that I'm not aware about. But generally, because it is a public function, I saw no reason as to why I shouldn't attend. But I know one of the reasons as to why they fear our presence there. It is because of what they said yesterday. Unajua jana waliongea mambo mingi sana pale Tononoka. And for some reason they felt we were going to get an opportunity to respond to their falsehood and lies. So, understandably so, as politicians, we always have an opportunity to respond. Najua jana the president said, and I know this is one of the reasons as to why they would not allow us to go. Jana the president said kwamba alitupatia, he wants the county government of Mombasa to account for 40 billion shilling given to us by the national government. So, of course, if I have an opportunity, I'll make it clear. The county government of Mombasa from its inception, tangu ianze kufanya kazi, has received close to 17 billion shillings. The first year, we allocated 4.2 billion. Wakazuia 750 million. Wakisema wamelipa wafanyikazi, so we got 4.2 less 700, which is basically 3.5 billion. The second year, the subsequent year, they gave us 4.6 billion, and then the 5.2 billion, and now 6.7 billion. Add that up. Now, ukitoa hiyo ya 750 that they held, because they said they paid for counties in Shahara, we were standing about 16 billion. So 16 billion na 40 billion ni tofauti kubwa sana. But I know, probably I was not going to respond to that falsehood today, but maybe they thought tukifika huko tutasema mambo hayo na mengine mengi ambayo wamesema jana na yale matusi. Pale awali nilisema mimi si mtu wa kujibu matusi na wala siwezi kujibu matusi. I had ignored. In fact, the caliber ya watu ambayo wanaongea matusi, for me it doesn't matter anymore. Wamejiweka pale wamejiweka. We are going to be issue based kind of conversation is going to be coming from our side. But anything besides your issue that affect the lives of our people, we're not be interested in. Mtu akitutukana, call us whatever you want to call us, I can assure you it does not make any difference to us. But for me, this is what we call backwardness of the highest order. I didn't believe, I actually was shocked that GSU, wanaweka hapo kunizuia nisiende, in fact they told me you have to go back home. Nikauliza sasa niende kufanya nini nyumbani? I have an office. If you don't want me outside the island, then escort me to the office. That's why they brought me to the office. They are out here. They are waiting for Uhuru Kenyatta to leave and they allow me nitoke nje ya ofisi. But hii ni wazi kwamba Jubilee wanatumia tact ambayo haifai.
Mombasa County Governor Ali Hassan Joho there reacting after being barred from attending that particular event, a presidential event, which the governor terms as public, the recommissioning of the Mtongwe Ferry. And besides that big story happening in court today, doctors who have been on strike for 100 days headed to the Court of Appeal amid a cloud of uncertainty. Last week, appellate judges Hannah Okwengo, Martha Koome and Kantai Ole Sankale directed the Health Ministry, governors and the Doctors' Union officials to finalize the signing of the 3 key documents to end the 3-month-old strike. The entire case is now shrouded in uncertainty, even as the national government and governors made it clear that they will not be holding any further talks with doctors, and as a matter of fact, they cancelled all offers made to the doctors. Okay, let's now speak to our reporter Rita Tinina, who attended that particular court session in the morning. Rita, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. This latest twist of the government and the county governments pulling out of the talks and withdrawing the offer that they had made the doctors, where did this place them, even with the court hearing today?
Well, Akisa, first of all, I would say let's begin at the court, where I would term it as the usual drill. For the last 4 weeks, what we have seen is that the Court of Appeal giving more time to parties in the dispute to come to an agreement. The difference is that today they were given an ultimatum, a full one-day ultimatum to reach an agreement. Last week, when they were in court, the court ordered that within the next 7 days, the 7 days lapsed today, that they should come up with an agreement, decide what documents will be signed first. But what happened that Tuesday afternoon is that the government, as you mentioned, withdrew its offer to the doctors. It ordered all the striking doctors to return to work and pulled out of negotiations. So between last Tuesday and today, nothing much has happened. There was nothing much to report in court. But the Doctors' Union officials, lawyers, Senior Counsel James Orengo, Philip Mulgore said that despite the fact that the government withdrew, the Doctors' Union officials on their part have been doing something to try and resolve this stalemate. And so in court, they presented a draft return to work formula. Remember last week, the issue was what should be signed first. The doctors wanted a recognition agreement with county governments signed first. Then the CBA, a revised CBA to be signed without amendments, and then they can return to work. So today we can say the doctors have given in. Last week, what the government and the county governments wanted is that the doctors return to work first, then a recognition agreement to be signed, then a CBA to be signed. So with the doctors giving in, saying they are ready to sign the return to work formula, that return to work formula, 5 pages, we have managed to see it. They want 15 things addressed. Among them is that they want within 7 days of signing the return to work formula that a recognition agreement with all the 47 counties be signed. They also want the CBA to be implemented, signed and registered at the Employment and Labor Relations Court within 4 days. They also want all the doctors to receive a risk allowance of 20,000 shillings per month. They are also asking that the call allowance be renamed doctor's allowance before they can call off the strike. Those are some of the issues in those 15 demands by the doctors. But in court, other parties, State Council from the Attorney General's office, as well as the Council of Governors, saying that they had not seen this draft by the doctors, and so they were not in a position to speak about it, to address it. Since last week, the government withdrew a draft CBA that it had given the doctors before the two parties could agree on anything. So today, the doctors having their own draft return to work formula. On the other side, the government Council of Governors saying they don't have one yet. And so the court saying starting now, that was around 11 a.m. this morning, start working on an agreement, start working on agreements on what should be signed first. But when the judges, Martha Koome, leading that 3-judge bench, asked them, since they had perused the document in court, the draft return to work formula by the doctors, the lawyers for the Government Council of Governors had perused it, and the judges wanted to know what is the difference between that draft return to work formula by the doctors and what the government had offered last week. And so they said it was a matter of allowances. This is one of the issues that has been contentious throughout this stalemate. And last week when the government withdrew its offer, that is the offer that the government says the doctors have included in their return to work formula, but it doesn't exist since the government withdrew its offer. And in the return to work formula by the doctors, what they want is that call allowance, if they want to rename the doctor's allowance, they want to have the lowest paid, a medical intern, to receive the doctor's allowance of 66,000 shillings a month, and the highest paid, a chief medical specialist, to receive 80,000 shillings a month. And as a sign of goodwill, religious leaders under the Interreligious Council of Kenya, who managed to get the parties to agree and on the harmonized SRC harmonized figures, they managed to get the doctors to agree to that. They have been heading these negotiations. And so today at the court, they said after the judges ordered the parties to be back in court tomorrow morning with an agreement, they agreed to continue leading this process, and they called for a meeting this afternoon. So all eyes will be on the court tomorrow morning. What happens there? The judges made it clear that if the parties do not agree by tomorrow, 10 a.m., when they will be back in court, then they will refer the matter back to the Employment and Labor Relations Court. That is where the labor dispute is being handled. The appeals court is only handling the contempt of court case. This is when the 7 union officials were committed to civil jail by the Employment and Labor Relations Court. They appealed at the Court of Appeal, and the court released them pending the hearing of this matter. And today there was initially confusion. Last week the judges had indicated that this week they will not be around. They will be in Mombasa attending some training. And so the judges today mentioned that they had set aside that training just to listen to this case. Initially, they told the doctors to sit aside with the government, the Council of Governors, and agree on the way forward. And if they agreed, then they go to Mombasa where the judges are, and the judges then will record that agreement. But following pleas by James Orengo, Philip Mulgo, then the judges said, we'll wait here tomorrow before we go to Mombasa. We'll wait here at 10 a.m. and see if we will have come up with an agreement, if all parties will have agreed and signed the return to work formula. So tomorrow morning we're expecting that return to work formula be signed. And after it's signed, now that the doctors have agreed that it's signed, they will call off the strike when it's signed and have a recognition agreement signed within 7 days, and have the CBA, a revised CBA that they say should not be amended, to be signed and registered in another 14 days, I beg your pardon. Akisa.
All right, Rita, thank you very much for that update. Our senior reporter, Rita Tinina, there joining us from our City Center studios. But elsewhere, our reporter, Elvis Koskei, from the Rift Valley region, specifically in Eldred, has been monitoring the health status down at the county levels, is now joining us live from Eldoret with an update on how exactly this doctor's strike has panned out for the public down at the county levels. A very good afternoon to you, Elvis. Thank you very much for joining us. You have done a spot check on various hospitals in Eldoret. What can you report so far?
Thank you very much. Yes, in the morning I was in the Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital, and what I can report as of now is that the CEO, Wilson Arwasa, said that the doctors have been given the ultimatum up to Wednesday when they're supposed to return to work. This comes at a time where there's a state directive for doctors to return to work, but I've managed to talk to some of the KMPDU officials in the North Rift region, and they've said that they'll stay put until the government heeds to their demand. But I'll just talk to three senators: Makueni Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr., and also Nandi Senator Stephen Sang, and also Senator Amos Wako, just to give us a perspective about the doctor strike. And also I understand that the legal committee, the Senate Legal Committee, was in Uasin Gishu in the morning, and they'll be heading to Nandi County later because of several issues of the dispute of boundary. Thank you very much, Mutula Kilonzo Jr., for joining us. Before we talk matters of the dispute about the boundaries, talk us about the doctor strike that we saw earlier today. The doctors were in the Court of Appeal because of this wrangle that has continued for a long time.
Yes. The position is that we have insisted that the government, since the government participated in the negotiations, and the doctors agreed to everything that the government offered, including lessening their demands on the financial aspects, the government should accept, together with the county governments, that the return to work formula collective bargaining agreement must be signed, together with what we call recognition agreements by the 47 counties. And coming from the history that this dispute arises out of a document that was signed and then disputed, it's only fair, in good faith, that the national government accepts to sign the document as a way to commit themselves. On my part, speaking both as their lawyer and a member of the Finance Committee of the Senate, we know that the budget process is ongoing, and therefore a commitment in writing by national government means that commitment, the financial commitment, goes into the budget of the counties and of the national government, because we are currently doing the division of revenue. And it is not asking too much for the Cabinet Secretary of Health, the 47 county governments, to put pen to paper, because the doctors have agreed to go to work, provided that those documents are signed. Yes.
Thank you. Senator Sang, President Uhuru Kenyatta issued a state directive that the doctors must go back to work. What's your opinion on that?
No, I think it is important to note that we have had these discussions and negotiations between the government, county governments, and the doctors for a long time. I would differ with Senator Mutula Kilonzo with regard to the CBA. I think it is important that any negotiated CBA must involve county governments. And I think the directive by the President, together with the position taken by the Council of Governors, asking doctors to negotiate within counties. And I think this is important because the employer of doctors, as we speak, are the county governments. So there is no way that, a CBA signed by only one, party, in this case the national government and the doctors union, would bind the county governments. And I want to really ask all the parties concerned, it is important to go back to the negotiation table. I think the directive by the President, together with the Council of Governors, they need to sit down and appreciate the fact that the people who are suffering are the ordinary wananchi. And I want to ask them that let's go back to the negotiation table. Let us, if it means starting afresh, let's start afresh. But this strike must come to an end the soonest.
Senator Wako, let's also hear from you
On
about the doctor strike and also the issue pertaining the boundaries.
now, maybe on the issue of the doctor strike, I think maybe my two colleagues know more about it. They have been involved. There was one stage where I was to be involved as the chair of the legal, but then I was not involved, and Atwoli came in and then took over. And I wish them the best. All I can say is that reading from the papers, so I don't know much about this, it appears that these negotiations had gone quite far and that a number of issues had actually been resolved. So my appeal would be why can't the issues that had been resolved, particularly under the leadership of the churches, those issues that were resolved and agreed upon should be concretized. And then the rest of the issues can be concretized, let the doctors go back, and the rest of the issues that were not resolved can be discussed when the doctors are working and alleviating the sufferings of Kenyans.
Okay.
So really, if it is true, because I heard the leadership of the church, I also heard the National Human Rights Commission saying that they more or less dealt with everything apart from one or two issues. Let them be concretized. Doctors go back, and the few remaining ones can be discussed as they work.
Thank you very much.
But I don't know much about it. But that's my opinion on that one.
Thank you, Mheshimiwa. I'm told our time is up. As you listened from the senators, Senator Mtula Kilonzo, also the Senator of Nandi, Stephen Sang, just giving us perspective about the doctor strike. But here in Uasin Gishu County, what I can report as of the moment is that doctors were given ultimatum up to Wednesday, and the county government of Uasin Gishu is keen as to see the doctors return to work.
Day is joining us live from Eldoret, but at this point, let's take a short break. Don't go too far. This is KTN Newsdesk. Welcome back. You are watching KTN Newsdesk. Let's now get into sports. The national seven-a-side rugby team was knocked out of the sixth leg of the World 7 Series in Vancouver in the Challenge Cup Trophy semi-finals after losing to Samoa on a 26-7 scoreline. Kenya dropped to position 12 on the standings after collecting 5 points from the tournament. All right, we wrap it up for our KTN Home viewers. Many thanks for joining us. But remember, we continue with this bulletin on KTN News, where we continue keeping you up to date on what's making headlines in the country and beyond. Our sign language interpreter has been Meresha Owiti, and I am Akisa Wandera. Good afternoon. See you in a bit.